Hello and welcome to Learn, Do, Become Radio. I'm April Perry here with Jill Adams, one of our amazing team members here at Learn, Do, Become, and we're going to be talking today about what to do when you find yourself resisting routines. Jill and I help manage our Steps to Everyday Productivity community, and we've both done coaching and support, and we love our community helping people to get organized, get out of those piles, be able to feel really excited about their projects, routines, calendars, tasks, where life feels more manageable. But what we found is so many of our community members perhaps haven't had successful routines in the past, or maybe they haven't had any routines, or maybe they're trying to establish a ton of routines all at the same time and they're feeling really overwhelmed. So our goal today is to help you wherever you are, whether you have awesome routines in place and you just want to tweak them and improve them, or whether you have no routines or some routines. Our goal is that you can start where you are and move forward in just a positive direction so you can feel excited about your routines, because routines, if they're done right, should feel like a lift and a boost and support and not feel heavy or like you're in jail. Okay, so welcome, Jill. How are you? We're excited to help people not feel like they're in jail, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I just love that we're talking about routines today, because so many times we will get questions coming in about, how to set up a routine, how to maintain routines, and just what the differences are between routines and projects. So I think that might be a great place to start, is just kind of talking about, okay, what specifically is a routine versus a project?
Love it. Okay. And this is an aha moment for me that routines and projects are different things. Routines and one-time tasks are different. And this is where the distinction might seem, well, yeah, do we really need to talk about it? But we do, because you're going to find when you look at your list of things to do each day or things you want to do each week, you're probably looking at a jumble of projects, routines, tasks. It's usually a big mashup. We want to help you distinguish that, because then you're going to feel more clarity. Okay, so the way I think about it is that routines are consistently running in the background. You do them over and over again, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, etc. They support your life. These are those things that are running typically, ideally, behind the scenes on autopilot. And they're never going away. Laundry will never be done. Your teeth will never be brushed for good. We're going to be keeping routines going as long as we're alive. Projects, though, are one-time events. And same thing with tasks. Those are one-time events, things that get checked off. And then you can say, okay, they're complete. So just having that framework to begin with, that's been helpful for me. Anything else you'd add, Jill, on how you think about it?
No, I think that's a great place to start for sure. And maybe the only other thing that I would add in is that something that's key for me with my routines is just knowing that they are flexible.
Yes.
Yes, the laundry needs to be done, but if I've got a really super busy day, or I'm going to be gone, one day, then very easily I can shift that routine to the next day. So they're flexible. Yes, they do occur, whether it's a daily basis, weekly basis, et cetera, like you were saying, but there is some flexibility there. Like, you're not hardwired, no, I have to do laundry every Thursday at 2 p.m. That's not what it's about. There is a rhythm to them, and there, definitely is a need for them, like you said, to keep the family going and to keep it uplifted. But it is very, very helpful to know that there is some flexibility as well.
And that's how you don't feel like you're in jail with routines. Now, there are some routines that will be time specific, like, we go to piano lessons every Monday, or we have a team meeting. We do ours right now the third Thursday of the month, right? So there are some routines that will be on the calendar, but the goal is to keep the scheduled routines as few and far between as possible, so you don't feel like you're totally overcommitted. And then if you can create a lot of flexibility, it's going to be more helpful. I remember it was back in 2002, and we just had our second daughter, and I was starting to feel overwhelmed, and Eric was in graduate school, and I was trying to manage babies and all that stuff. And I made a list of my routines, and I called it April's Routines, and I opened my computer and I wrote out, every day I'm going to do this, and every Thursday I'll do this. And I did exactly what you said. 2 p.m. on Thursdays is when I will whatever. And I even put ironing on there. I'm going to iron on Thursday nights. I had it all scheduled when we go to the library. I basically was trying to create this perfect life for myself that I could then step in and live, which would then make me perfect. Like, that was my thought. Oh my
Yes.
goodness. By the time I typed out all those routines, I felt like that was jail. I felt sick to my stomach. I was overwhelmed. I hated. I didn't even want to wake up and look at it. I thought this is the worst thing I've ever seen. Who wants to live this life? I was really resentful and I didn't feel like I was being a happy person at all. So don't do that. Just like, don't do that. Give yourself some of that flexibility. So,
Yes, you are not alone in that, April. Oh my goodness. I know that I have felt that same way. And again, we just get this comment from so many people who can totally relate that they just have it in their head that they just want this perfect, ideal day every single day of their life. And I mean, when we're sitting here talking about it, I mean, it's just, we can laugh about it because we know how silly it is to even think that that is attainable.
yeah.
But for some reason, we just keep coming back to that. It's like we judge every day by like our best day.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just crazy. And it kind of goes back to that whole thing about perfectionism and, just letting go of, just trying to have that absolute perfect day every day. But what it does help with when you have these routines set up, you know that you're going to have like the ebb and the flow of, day in and day out. But to function, you know that you're going to need to have food on the table. You know that you're
Yeah.
going to need to have clean clothes. You know that you need to have you brush your teeth if you don't want to have,
Right.
if you want to have your teeth all of your life, right? I mean, these are things that we absolutely do need to do. Like they are vital to us living our best lives. So,
Well, and you just brought up a really good point that whenever we don't have good routines in place, that's usually when we start experiencing the problems. Like if you don't have a routine for flossing and brushing, you probably are going to have some dental problems that you're going to have to pay for later, right? If you don't have a good routine for laundry, then like when I was growing up, we didn't have a good routine for laundry. And so most of my clothes, like in my drawers or under my bed, were wrinkled and dirty. And I was digging for clothes every day to wear, which, doesn't really leave you feeling great. And we didn't have a great routine for meal planning. So we would just kind of eat like toast, or whatever. Like we did. And it wasn't because my mom didn't want routines. She just didn't really know how to make them and was a little overwhelmed. So I grew up really without a lot of routines in place. And when I started creating them, first I swung to the other extreme until I hated my life. And then I learned, oh, wait a second. There's actually a way to create routines that can help your home be clean and healthy and happy and help your business run and help you feel like, hey, I'm a person and not have that overwhelm. So that's what we're talking about today is how to do it. And if you're the kind of person where you're like, well, I just like to fly by the seat of my pants. I just like to kind of just enjoy my life. Awesome. But you're going to have to make an investment sooner or later. Either it's an investment in dental work, big major cleanup later, stress later, or it's a little bit of an investment now to set up some good routines. So I would vote start now with some simple routines, and then you don't have to pay for it later because there's got to be a payment made to keep life going. That's just kind of how it is. Okay, so we're going to jump in and talk about some ways to do that. But the goal is for this to feel happy, right? Happy routines.
yes. And even like you were just saying, the people who are just more free spirited and just like to fly by the seat of their pants, like you were saying, you know what? I promise you that you already have a lot of routines in your life. You just may not recognize it or realize it, at this point. But if you would just stop and just take out a piece of paper and just do a little bit of a mind sweep of what you do on a normal day, I think you would be really surprised at how many routines you already have in place.
Yeah.
And that can be definitely challenging as people are trying to set up their routines, is that they think, oh my goodness, where am I going to fit this into my life? Well, if you take a moment and just look at what you're already doing, that is going to be great motivation moving forward, because we definitely want to start small when it comes to adding in routines.
Yes.
Again, we don't want to be like reaching for the stars here and kind of for that perfect life, perfect every day, because you're going to feel like April was just describing, and that's not good. We want this to feel fun. We want this to feel light. And, if you're thinking about it, you will change best by feeling good in this process.
I
So
love that reminder. And also, I think what's going to happen is you're going to find that you're more spontaneous and creative because your routines will be supporting you. People who like to be more free spirited, awesome. But you actually, I think, will be more free spirited when you know that you haven't forgotten to take out the trash and now you've got a bin that's going to be full for another week, or things like that. Like having those routines are going to support you. So you're going to feel less stressed and you're going to have more fun. So yes, absolutely what Jill was saying. We want to start super, super small. I taught this class one time and I had 10 ping pong balls and I asked a volunteer to come up and I said, okay, I'm going to throw all 10 ping pong balls at you and I want you to catch them. And she said, okay. So I threw all the balls. And of course, I don't even know if she caught any. I mean, maybe one, but 10 ping pong balls flying at you at once is way too much. So what we want to emphasize is starting a new routine is kind of like catching a ping pong ball, I'll just say. One of the things, and I have a little outline in front of me, but I'm going to kind of bring up one of my stories a little earlier. I did try, this is a few years ago, I tried to put dozens of routines into my life at the same time. It was probably around New Year's Day when I was setting new goals for the year. And I wrote out like, okay, I'm going to do this with our budget. I'm going to make sure I'm eating 10 servings of vegetables a day. I'm going to make sure that we have story time, before bed every night. And we're going to do, and I had like all these new things that I was putting into place to make sure that I was healthy and our family was happy. We were doing all these amazing things, but I was making tweaks to multiple routines. And that just made my head hurt. Oh my goodness. Like my brain couldn't comprehend all of that. And so we want you to start super, super small with just one routine at a time. And if you already have some good routines in place, but you're putting some new ones in place, let's just do super, super simple, one thing at a time, so you won't feel overwhelmed. So Jill, anything else you'd add on that?
I love that. Like what you were sharing as far as starting small is definitely the key to success when it comes to routines. Ultimately, we want your routines to just really be on autopilot and, just being able to go through them, day in and day out without you having to think about them. And again, when you're trying to add in a new routine, of course, that's going to take a little bit of thought process, as you're getting going. But ultimately, that's our goal with routines. And there are a lot of tips and tricks that you can use to help bring in more routines as you go along. But the key is to do it nice and slow at an even pace, at an even keel, so you are not feeling stressed. That is absolutely not what we are talking about here. We are talking about supporting you and helping you to live your best life in a way that is not going to make you feel stressed. That's just going to feel comfortable. It's going to feel smooth, and it's just going to give your life a better rhythm overall.
Now, let's say there was someone who maybe just came to Learn, Do, Become. Maybe they just started our STEP program, Steps to Everyday Productivity, and they're like, okay, I'm just getting going. Now, we start out with like this little email tutorial, which that's one idea of helping people finish a little project, getting their emails to 0, and then we give them, here's a routine you can just keep in place now, where each day you can just do a couple little things and your emails can stay at 0. That's kind of an example of like one routine we try to help people with at the beginning if they want, or they can put it off and come back to emails later. But I was trying to think like, well, what would you tell someone who right now is just living in tons of piles, totally in overwhelm? I mean, I wrote down a couple ideas, things like, okay, each day I'm just going to wake up, look at my calendar, and just make a little list of things that I could do with the time and energy I have. I mean, just looking at your calendar and making a little list, that could be a way to start. What else would you suggest, or what has been helpful for you with like just kind of getting going if you feel like you have no routines, no control, everything's just kind of all over the place?
So again, I'm just going to repeat this one more time because I think it is so important. So if somebody especially is feeling overwhelmed at where they are right now, absolutely start with a mind sweep. And again, all that is looking at your day for 7 days with a little sheet of paper and just writing down the things that you do on a daily basis. Just again, because that is going to give you some confidence already in realizing what you are accomplishing. And I am all about celebrations along the way. So as you're going through, it's, you after you've done your mind sweep, you're looking at everything that you are already doing. when you're going to move forward on what next to add in as a new routine, I would definitely ask, what is your biggest priority right now?
Love it.
Because, if you are battling something maybe health wise and
Yeah.
you're trying to add in a new routine of, starting a new budgeting system for your family, if your health is kind of out the window and you can't function on a
You're
daily
not
basis,
sleeping.
you're not going to be able to even begin the whole new routine of setting up a budget. So, just kind of in a logical way, like, what is the highest priority? What is your biggest goal right now that you're looking at? And then taking a step back from that. And again, just asking yourself, what routine could I add in that's going to help me achieve this goal? That is where I would start. And I would start with just one routine that's going to help.
Yeah.
And then give it a few days, like maybe 5 days or a week, and just see how that routine is going. And if it's, something that's very easy to incorporate, you're doing great, then go on to the next step, towards that goal. What is something else that's going to move me closer to this goal, until you are at a place where you, again, are on autopilot. You're not having to think about it every day. And, the other thing that I would say is that, things aren't going to be absolutely perfect when you're adding in new routines. Like, you need to expect some little road bumps along the way as you're implementing new routines.
But I just want to pause for 1 minute about and highlight what you just said, because you're ready for the next routine when you feel like your brain isn't having to focus 100% on all the new routines you just put into place. Like when you give yourself a few days, give yourself a little time, you're ready. And yeah, same thing. Sometimes you'll start a new routine and think, okay, it's time for us to tackle the budget, which I think budgeting is a great routine. It's great to know how you're tracking your money and keeping track of it. But if you're jumping into one routine and it's not working because you're super sick, okay, well, hang on a second. Let's back up. We're going to look at them. We talk about looking at projects and setting up routines. I call setting up a routine a project, and then it goes into routine mode. But we're going to think of it like dominoes. What's that one that if I knocked this one over, it would impact the other ones? It would make the other things easier. Or there's this book called The One Thing, and they say, what's like the one thing that if I did that today, it would make everything else easier? So maybe for you, it is something like meal planning, where you might have several people in the household who need to eat, and just the eating is causing a lot of stress because everyone's hungry and you can't turn that off. So you're like, let's just get the food in place, some simple little menu where we're going to shop once and it's going to take care of us for the week and we're all going to take turns. Let's just figure that out. So maybe it is meal planning, or maybe it is the laundry where like you literally can't find clothes. You're wasting time digging through things like I had been when I was growing up. Okay, maybe laundry is something that you want to put into place. Or maybe if you are stressed because you're like, I don't know if I'm able to pay the bills next month. Okay, maybe budgeting that's your highest priority right now. Let's get that, money stress off. So I think what Jill was saying is like something we don't want to jump over. We want to make sure that if you are writing down a list of things you're already doing and then figuring out what's that biggest pain point. I love your question, Jill. Like, what could I do that's going to make this easier? So smart. And I mean, just one quick thing from me. I've at the time I'm recording this, I've been like on and off sick for like 2.5 months. It's been like super hard. And my routine right now is like learning a whole new diet. All of a sudden there's different foods that are bothering me, things like that. And I'm taking these supplements. And so taking supplements 5 times a day and eating all different foods and having to spend more time preparing my foods and things like that, that's taken so much mental bandwidth. I couldn't think, like, we want to start this new Arise program. We have all these things we want to do. I'm like, Eric, I can't think of any of that. All I can think about is eating and sleeping. Like, that's all I can think about right now. So I got, a little vitamin organizer to help me organize my supplements. I've put some new routines in place. We went to the grocery store and stocked up on certain foods that I know I can eat and filled our freezer and our pantry. So I'm like, okay, I'm not going to starve. Like, it's been, that was a big project / new routine to put into place. Now I'm like, okay, well, today we're going to hope that I'm at the end of this. I don't know. Today I'm feeling good. But I feel like, okay, I'm remembering to take my supplements. I've got a pretty good routine in place. Now I can sit down with Jill and we can record this podcast. I'm putting kind of a little podcast routine in place. Great. That's kind of the next step. But I'm not trying to do, 50 things at the same time, because I'm just going to be setting myself up for failure. So if you can just say, okay, we're going to start small. We're going to set ourselves up for success. We're going to hit those pain points. It's going to be awesome. And then, yes, now should we step into expecting resistance? Because, habits and routines are so easy. It's like, no problem getting everyone to buy in and remembering to do it all the time. So, where would you want to start on this, Jill?
Well, I just think it's good to acknowledge that, we all have like the best intentions in the world,
Yeah.
but sometimes we need a little bit of extra help to actually make them a reality in our lives. So, I thought it would be good to just maybe talk about a few tips that would be helpful when you do kind of experience some resistance or you're having a hard time implementing some of those routines. So I thought one of the things that we could talk about would be kind of like an anchoring event to kind of attach your new routine to. So you were just sharing, again, kind of your new routine with your supplements and whatnot. If you're not used to taking supplements, that can be a really hard thing to remember, through the day or different things or just to take pills in general. So something that I started doing for myself is that now first thing that I do in the morning when I walk into my kitchen, like the very first thing is I do like a lemon water drink to start with, and then I take my vitamins. So it's like a 3-step process that I go to, and it's literally what I do first thing when I walk into the kitchen every morning, just because I know what will happen in my day, especially with working from home. I'll just get busy, with the kids and, good mornings and, breakfast and all of that, and then taking to school and coming home and then diving into work. And before I know it, it's 3 hours later and I didn't do any of, those very important things to start my day with. Yeah. And so that is just something that literally, that's my anchoring event. When I walk into the kitchen in the morning, I do these 3 things to start my day each day, and just to make sure that I'm taking care of my gut and my health and just starting on that right page.
I love that you know that there's going to be some reason why you're not going to get to it. And so you created like this anchoring event. I think that's awesome. And yes, I think that so many times when we start a routine, we just think, oh, well, won't I just remember? And we kind of get frustrated with ourselves. Like, yeah, why is it 3 hours later that I'm finally just remembering that? Taryn brought up a really good point. She's one of our awesome team members. And she said, your brain wants to keep you safe. And a lot of times when you have a new routine, it doesn't feel safe yet. And so it might feel like it's a failed attempt waiting to happen, over and over again. And she suggested something similar, like tricking your brain by taking like these tiny steps. And BJ Fogg has this Tiny Habits TED Talk that he gave. He's a professor at Stanford, and he's done a lot of research on like habits and exactly what you're saying, kind of a little anchoring type event where when one thing happens, then I will do this, and having something set up. Like Taryn was saying, you could set the floss next to your toothbrush, and then you aim just to touch the floss, then work up to flossing before you brush. But just starting to have some kind of connection. I will just have to mention the book Atomic Habits. So good, by James Clear. Excellent book. And he talks a lot about little things you can do to help. But I think just if and we'll share a few more ideas in just a minute, but just one thing I wanted to just emphasize before we jump off the expecting resistance is that anytime you're either training yourself or your family members or even a team at your work or in your business, routines just take time. Our brains have to create these new neural pathways in order to be able to do those things. And so, Jill right now is training one of our new team members and teaching like the routines. Hey, Jill's been doing some of these things for years. And so it's just super natural, but it's like teaching, hey, step by step, here's what we do. Here's how it goes. And then people learn. And like with our kids, oh my goodness, things like our Saturday jobs, I keep saying like, hey, before we go play with friends or do screen time on a Saturday, our jobs need to be done. And I think they like want to forget that every Saturday. Like it's like a new concept. Wait, what? We need to do. No, they're actually super cute. They do their jobs. But they're always like, well, I could just kind of do them later. They, sometimes your family members might not want it to be as part of the routines. Or just Jill and I are actually recording 2 podcasts today. This is our second one. And in the little break, I ran down to the kitchen and got a drink of water, and I dried my hands on our little towel. And every time I dry my hands, I like fold the towel and I lay it down on the counter nicely. And my family loves to like dry their hands on the towel and just kind of throw it on the counter. Like that's how they want to do it. And so today I was kind of in a rush to get back up to Jill. And so I threw the towel on the counter, and Eric was there, and he's like, April, I really think it's important for us to fold the towel and lay it nicely on the counter before we leave. I'm like, funny, really funny. But, it's getting these little, and yes, you don't have to have a towel totally folded. It's fine. But I just like it. I like little routines like that. And so when there are routines that you have buy-in from the family, they are important. You've all decided what you're doing and what you're sharing, or in a team, in a business. Hey, this is what we're doing to keep things moving forward. There's always going to be some type of resistance just because that's how our brains function. We need repetition. Like repetition is essential to developing new habits and routines. So just don't get discouraged if you feel a little bit stressed out by starting them. That's why we just do one new routine at a time, right?
Yes, absolutely. I love that. And it's just knowing what's just on the other side of that resistance and how you're going to be just helping yourself again to just live that best life, because you're supporting yourself, you're supporting your family, you're supporting your business by implementing these routines into your daily, weekly, monthly life. I mean, it's just going to be there to, I just love the word support. That just like epitomizes everything that routines are. They are there to support you. And when you're going through and you're trying to, implement some of these things, again, resistance is natural, and you're not alone when you feel that resistance. And that's why we're just trying to encourage you with these, few tips along the way, because we know that it can be difficult sometimes. And, it might be just like a little superficial, a little bit of resistance, or it might be even something deeper or a more emotional level, when you're, trying to tackle something that's, just on a bigger scale, a bigger goal, but maybe it's having to go back and deal with some long time set in patterns in your life. And that can be really challenging. So when you can take a step back and, take one of these routines that might be a little bit more challenging for you and just attach it to something that isn't challenging for you, that you do every day, it can make it so much easier. And I know Taryn also shared with us about how she was trying to implement, starting to meditate into her daily habits, and just the importance of that, and just kind of, taking that time to, calm and slow down. She was like, you know what? I wear shoes every single day, in my house, out of my house. She's just like, I wake up and, I just start my morning, but I always stop and put on my shoes before I get busy with work or whatever. So she decided that simple little trick of stopping to sit on the floor and put on her shoes, that was going to be her trigger to do her meditation before she actually got started with her workday. And she said, because it's been a real struggle for her to try and implement meditating. It's just for whatever reason, she's just kind of had a mental block with it. But she's like, but since I picked such a natural, easy thing that I do every day, I just know before I get up from the floor, I am going to have my few minutes of meditation. And it's worked beautifully to implement something that has been so challenging in the past, because, the day would come and go and she just wouldn't be, fitting that into a routine. But it's worked so beautifully for her. So I just love that simple example. I
think that's so smart. And then Taryn also, she put together some great advice for us to share for the podcast. She had it all written out for us. So Jill and I are like, we're set up. But she wrote this other thing that I really liked and I appreciated. She said, proceed through a lens of curiosity, looking for data rather than expecting perfection. It's an experiment. When something doesn't work, take a step back and ask why. Maybe you had some extra interruptions throughout the day. Maybe you didn't get enough sleep. You're not at full capacity. Maybe you're doing it the wrong time of day or on the wrong day. This doesn't mean you failed and you're bad at it. It only means you're human and you need to give yourself grace. And I just want to add in one little thing. Like, one of the things I found was really helping me with my key routines was the Streaks app. And I think I paid like $5 for it. And I loved it because I could choose my streaks. You can like color code it. And then when you hold it down, it does a little ding, like when you check it off. And it was super fun. Yeah. I even had one for like snuggling with my kids in the morning. So the boys would come snuggle with me and then they'd be like, can we check off your Streaks app? And they'd, make it go ding. It was just kind of funny. The reason I liked it is because I have my phone set up where like I have no notifications that pop up besides like my text messages. And this, I did have the notification number on it. So I could see, oh, you have 4 more streaks that you need to accomplish today before you go to bed, to keep your streaks. So by doing that, I did like hundreds of days of consecutively of Pilates, of my scripture study, of snuggles with my kids, my creating my day, reviewing my vision. I had all these things on there that I was doing. I think I had like a total of 7 I ended up with. But the thing is, when I got really sick, I noticed, like it was like 3 days ago, I actually deleted my Streaks app because I was so sick. And every time I looked at my phone and saw I had a bunch more streaks to do, I was feeling sicker because I felt like so overwhelmed. Like I kind of been super sick. So I was like in bed. I couldn't think. I still wanted to do these things, but the number that was showing up for me was causing stress. And that was the moment I said, you know what? Right now, my Streaks app is not serving me. I feel like I'm serving it. So I'm going to just pause it for a while. I'm still a good person. I just, I need to pause for a while I focus on my health. And then I might, start it up again. But I did it for hundreds of days and it was super fun. And I felt like it was serving me. But then the moment I felt like I was serving the routine or the structure I put into place, I was like, oh, that's not working for me right now. So I just want to emphasize that you can absolutely adapt it to work with your life, with your changes, with your family. And I'm sure, Jill, you have so many good routines going right now in your family. I'm sure you've had to adjust them though. Like it didn't turn out perfectly when they got home from school. They all put their bags exactly where they're supposed to go. Everyone does all their dinner jobs. I mean, I know your kids help cook. Anything you'd want to add on how you've found success in getting your family on board? Oh my
goodness. Such a good point. And the thing is that we just absolutely have to have compassion through this process, not only with ourselves, because again, it can be so tempting to compare ourselves to our very best day, or even comparing our insides, like what's going on in our reservations or doubts or whatnot, and then looking at somebody else and just thinking that, oh my gosh, they have it all together. They are just like amazing. They run their house beautifully. They're never late to anything. Their kids always, are dressed perfectly and just, they don't come running in, and like forgetting a baseball cleat or, just all these different things that, it's just so easy to compare our insides to other people's outsides. Yeah. So I would caution you against that when you're looking at your routines, because this is not anything about a comparison between you and anyone else. This is just, again, about helping you to be supported and to help you live your best possible life. So when you are trying to do this, it's like you're learning something new. When your child's learning to walk, you don't criticize your child when they fall down, do you?
Yeah, of course
Absolutely not. So as you're trying to implement routines for yourself and when you're trying to implement them with your family, like please, please, please just have so much grace, because if you are consistent, you will be amazed by the results. Because I even look at it now, and Larry and I were just having a conversation, my husband, about the ages of our children. And we're pretty similar to you. I've got one that's just a little bit younger, but I've got 3 in high school and 1 in junior high. And we're just on the verge of kind of launching them into this next new phase. And I was just like, we were talking about, just some family time and just some different things, and we're just talking about like where they are and whatnot. And I'm like, like they aren't needy of us. Like they really, we've raised them this way to be independent. And a lot of that has to do with those routines. Our kids know how to cook. They know how to do laundry. They know how to clean their rooms each weekend. They know how to take care of their vehicles. Like we have brought in these routines starting, 5 years ago or however long it was, that we, really got involved in the STEP system. But I mean, the routines were there beforehand, but we just identified them more once I started the STEP program. And it was so helpful because, when we were able to post those for our kids and just talk about them week by week and just stay consistent with them, now it's not like we need to remind them, of course, maybe here and there. But, our house is relatively well run just on a normal basis because everybody is chipping in, they're contributing, and they feel good about, inviting friends over because our house is decent and the
Yeah.
rooms are decent, and they haven't left everything to the end of the week or whatnot because of those routines. Like, they truly have improved our quality of life, and it has helped our children to be so independent
Yeah.
and to be self-serving in that way. And sometimes as you start thinking about your little baby graduating and moving on, and it's just like, oh, you want to hold on to it sometimes, but it's just like, I'm not sad though, because this is
Hmm.
exactly what I wanted for my kids. I wanted them to be able to go out and launch into their futures and into society and be contributing there as well. I don't want them to just come here and be like little slaves in our household and, do
Yeah.
chores and things. I truly want them to have and to know how to serve, themselves, their spouses, their future families, their communities. I just think that there's so many deeper lessons that come from just being consistent day in and day out now, as you're trying to work on those routines for yourself and for your family as well. Does
That
that
is
make sense?
super inspiring. Yes, I love it so much. And, we know it doesn't look pretty every day as we're working on training. But that's where I love, we talk about like celebration, celebrating along the way. The reason I get so giddy when I talk about routines is because what I know is possible once those routines are in place. Because then you can like celebrate, like, oh wow, like I've been really consistent at drinking water or making my bed each morning. I feel happy when I walk into my room. Or there was, one Saturday morning I woke up to the sound of the lawnmower and Spencer was already out there mowing the lawn and no one had to remind him. Now he doesn't always remember everything, and that's okay. He's working at it. But I was so excited. I'm like, oh, he knows mowing the lawn is his routine and he's just doing it. And it's almost like magic starts happening, like when the dog gets fed or the dishwasher's empty. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing. I didn't have to do all this because there are so many. I mean, and granted, I grew up in a home where my mom did most of the housework. She did all the laundry. She never asked any of us to help. And I think that's why our home was cluttered and she was overwhelmed because she was trying to do everyone's jobs, right? And she was doing it because she grew up doing too much work and she wanted us not to have to do a lot of work. But what ended up happening is we didn't really learn how to clean or cook or organize. And she was overwhelmed, right? And so that's where I'm trying to like break that cycle a little bit, where it's awesome. The fact that you and Larry can say, hey, our kids aren't super needy. Hello, can I give you a trophy? That is amazing. That's how I want to feel. I'm not quite there yet. But our two girls who have graduated, who are out of the house, they are totally self-sufficient. They do their own laundry, their own groceries. They're running their own lives. We're not doing it anymore. We're still doing some fine tuning with our boys. They're a little different, but super cute. And
Yeah.
so, I think it's just taking that time though to celebrate, and especially looking at yourself. Like as you get these routines in place. And as you learn, I mean, really, leadership is what you're talking about. You're learning how to be a leader, whether it's within a business setting or whether it's within a family setting. The way that families grow, the way that businesses grow, is when really solid routines are being shared, delegated, and when everyone can support each other. That's what helps growth to happen. And same thing in a community. The way you see communities growing and thriving is when there's good routines in place to keep people strengthened, educated, fed, cared for. Those good routines are what really, that's like the fabric of our communities. That's the fabric of our lives. So while sometimes you might think like, oh, I don't need to really worry about routines, it's not that big of a deal. No, it really is a big deal. And you're probably
Mm-hmm.
already doing a lot of things great, like Jill emphasized at the beginning. You probably already have a lot of good routines in place. That's how you're getting to work. That's how you're waking up in the morning. It's how you're getting fed. Like you're already doing things. Let's just figure out how we're going to optimize those routines to minimize the stress and help us be able to get those results so that we don't have to think about them anymore. I don't want you thinking about routines. I want them just happening so that you can just move forward and focus on those, maybe really purposeful projects or additional routines that you want to put into place. So any other final encouragement you want to share before we close up, Jill?
I think that is beautiful. It is, I truly think that, and agree with you, that routines are the backbone of everything that matters.
Yeah.
Truly. I mean, when you look at companies, when you look at families, when you look at organizations, and when you look at your own personal life, I mean, honestly, you're not going to get anywhere if you don't have those routines going for you, because they are the day in and the day out. Projects are great and they come along, and we can accomplish great things through our projects, but it is truly those routines that keep us going day in and day out. And I just really do feel like they are the backbone of everything good in my own life personally. And I know I get really giddy too when we talk about routines.
That's why I love talking to Jill, because we're both equally giddy.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, this is so silly that I truly am like giddy excited, like talking about routines, just because, again, it's just, they can be life-changing for people. Like if you just don't really have them going strongly, and then to transition, if you could just take a picture of yourself today and then take a picture of yourself, like 3 months down the road after you've implemented a few routines that are leading you towards your goal, like you are going to see literally a transformation that can be unbelievable. It does take work. Everything worth it takes a little work, but you can do it. And just don't forget to celebrate along the way, whether it's just like an attaboy or a way to go, April, or, just like when you accomplish that routine, like literally saying something verbal, it can be so encouraging to your brain, and it just helps to solidify that routine as you're going along. And literally you are going to have just the best story to tell. As you move forward. It's just the best.
Okay, so Jill and I are your routine cheerleaders. You can totally do it. It's going to be amazing. Thank you so much for being with us. And we'll have a few details outlined on the show notes page. You can come check that out. If you're brand new to Learn, Do, Become, and you're thinking, I want to know how to get a full Command Central in place with routines and projects and all those things organized, go to learndobecome.com/step for our free training, How to Finally Stop Drowning in Piles. We are here to support you and help you, and there are awesome things that you are meant to do with your life. So thank you so much for being with us, and we'll see you soon at learndobecome.com.